Imagine a world where a mysterious illness appears out of nowhere and in just a few years wipes out up to half of the entire population. This isn't the plot of a disaster movie. This was the grim reality of Europe in the mid 14th century. This was the Black Death. So, how did this nightmare begin? Our story starts not in Europe, but thousands of miles away on the vast steppes of Central Asia. The culprit was a tiny bacterium called Yersinia pestis, living harmlessly on fleas, which in turn lived on black rats. For centuries, this was a closed system, but then something changed. The Mongol Empire, its expansion, and the flourishing of trade routes, like the Silk Road, created a superhighway for these infected rats and fleas. They hitched rides on merchant caravans and ships, traveling faster and farther than ever before. By 1346, the plague had reached the Black Sea port of Kaffa. A story, though possibly exaggerated, tells of a besieging Mongol army catapulting infected corpses over the city walls. Whether true or not, the result was the same. Italian merchants inside the city fled, unknowingly carrying the disease with them on their ships. In October 1347, 12 of these ships docked at Messina, Sicily. The locals who greeted them were met with a horrifying sight. Most of the sailors were either dead or gravely ill, covered in black boils that oozed blood and pus. The authorities quickly ordered the death ships out of the harbor, but it was too late. The Black Death had arrived in Europe. From Sicily, the plague spread like wildfire. It moved along the busy shipping lanes to other major ports like Genoa and Venice, and then pushed inland. Within months, it had engulfed Italy, France, and Spain. By 1348, it was in England. By 1349, Germany and Scandinavia. No corner of the continent was safe. The symptoms were terrifying. Victims suffered from fever, chills, and vomiting, followed by the appearance of the infamous buboes, swollen, painful lymph nodes in the groin, armpits, or neck, which often turned black. This is where the name Black Death comes from. For most, death was swift and agonizing, often occurring within a week of the first symptoms. In a world without germ theory, people were desperate for an explanation. What could be causing such widespread death? Many believed it was a divine punishment from God for humanity's sins. This led to extreme religious movements, like the flagellants, who would travel from town to town, whipping themselves in public displays of penance, hoping to appease an angry God. Others looked for scapegoats. Tragically, Jewish communities were often blamed, with false accusations of them poisoning wells. This led to horrific massacres and persecution across Europe. People also turned to science, or what passed for it at the time. Doctors, wearing their famous beak-like masks filled with aromatic herbs, believed the disease was spread by miasma, or bad air. Their treatments, like bloodletting or lancing the buboes, were well-intentioned but completely ineffective and often made things worse. By the time the first wave of the plague subsided around 1351, Europe was a changed world. It's estimated that between 75 and 200 million people perished, possibly as much as 50% of Europe's population. Entire villages were wiped off the map. The social and economic consequences were profound. With so many workers gone, labor became incredibly scarce. This meant that surviving peasants could suddenly demand higher wages and better conditions. The old feudal system, which had been in place for centuries, began to crumble. This massive upheaval paved the way for some of the biggest changes in European history, including the Renaissance. The Black Death was an unimaginable tragedy, but it also served as a catalyst, shaking the foundations of the medieval world and inadvertently setting the stage for the modern era. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this journey into the past interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. See you in the next one.